Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for making time today for our interview. And my name is Elsa, and I'll be the interviewer today. And I'm the founder of Inspire Youth Journal. Today we have firstly Tala and Farah, and they're sisters, and they're also the founders of Build Hope, which is a decentralized reconstruction system that turns building rubble into reusable, non-load bearing blocks using simple local materials and low-cost methods. They were the Middle East regional winner at Earth Prize 2026, and the project was also mentioned at the UN's 80th anniversary and the UN RWA Pledging Conference 2026, as well as featured on well-known newspapers like BBC, TRT World, and CBC News. And then we also have today joining us is Dev, and he received a congratulatory letter from the U.S. Senator Mark Warner for his selection as the Young Arts 2026 award winner with distinction. He was featured on Fox News and is also the finalist in the Pulitzer Center's 2026 Finding Words Poetry Contest for his poem, What the Pink Balloon Knows. And he wrote this poem to deeper readers' understanding of the human cause of the war in Gaza, particularly how separation and displacement can continue reshaping a family even after they reach safety. And he hopes his work can build empathy and make experiences from our own feel personal. And so I hope today's interview feels less like, a formal interview, but more like conversation, so you guys can ask each other questions along the way. So my first question would be for Tala and Farah. And how do you guys come up with the idea of, transforming rubble into reusable bricks?
To be honest with you, the day that the idea clicked to our mind wasn't a happy day. It was the day exactly after our house was bombed. So unfortunately, maybe you're waiting for a happy moment here, but the reality is away from that. As we used to go for schools before the war, we have a subject we called it technology. In technology, in the book of that subject, we have a lesson that they teach us in it how they make blocks unusual, how they take it from the mountains and how they shape it to make the constructions materials. So the day that after we were forced to leave our house and we bought all our things like in just one bag or like my bag, and that was everything. I bought everything I want in it, like how just one bag. So the day after our house was bombed, we like if what it was like after a month ago after we left our house, I just searched for something that will make me connected for my house, that will feed the belonging feeling in my heart, and make me just connected to it. So the first thing that like my eyes looked for was that book. It was like the word my eyes. So when I just opened it, the first thing that I observed was the that lesson of how they make constructions, materials, and blocks unusual. So I thought like, why not? Here's like the why not questions start to appear. Like, why not if we made the RAPL, the source that we have, like we have dozens of it, the alternative of how we make constructions to rebuild our own town and to rebuild our own house. So here's the question start to appear in my mind, and the mixture of how we could make it and make our own constructions materials, but by the resource that we have, like we have a lot of it, which is Rappel. So the first person I go directly for, like not even just in this thing, but in all things, it's my sister Farah. So I just ran to her, exactly to her, and I told her the idea that I have, and we discussed it deeply with each other. Then we go to our mom, and we discussed all those with our mom, as she is an industrial engineer, so she helped us a lot in this idea. And yeah, that was the day that the idea clicked in our mind.
Thank you for sharing your story. And I have my next question would be for Dev. And my question is, what does the title "What the Pink Balloon Knows" suggest?
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me as well. So to give a bit more background about my story, it's basically a poem who follows a mother and her baby from Gaza, and who are reunited in Doha after they were separated for 11 months because of the conflict. And Pink Balloon basically is the poem's observer. It kind of represents innocence, weightless, and unaware of the war and borders, and displacement, because it kind of contrasts the what the balloon does not know, because it shows kind of the trauma and everything the mother has to go through, with the innocence of her child who may not understand what everything is going on. And then it kind of just represents like the human characteristics of having grief, separation, and then like the safety that everything is not home. So the title "What the Balloon Knows" is kind of paradoxical, because the balloon actually knows almost nothing, because it lets its witness a deeply uh it does not know, like the child does not know what the mother goes through, and she doesn't even recognize her when she comes back to Gaza. So it kind of represents the child's mindsets after the trauma of the war.
Thank you for your really in-depth explanation. I did find the title really intriguing when I first saw it, and thank you for explaining the deeper message behind it. And my next question would be for Build Hope. And since you with given your situation, what are some of the challenges that you face while trying to carry out this project?
Basically, the challenges that we faced while making this project was the challenges that anyone in Gaza faced during the war. Because the period of time that we like developed and made all the whole project and the proposal for it and the research and all like the practical steps to make it was in the period of the war. So yeah, there was uncertainty everywhere, pumping, like constant pumping. There was also famine, like we were forced to disciplined multiple times. So all these things is not like the normal life for anyone. But somehow we just have the goal and we worked really hard on it, and then yeah, we achieved it.
Your story sounds really inspiring, that how you guys were able to achieve so much given your current situation. And my next question for Dev is, what is like the inspiration behind your poem, and why do you choose to focus on this specific story?
Yeah, of course. So for the Pulitzer competition, we had to respond for a specific Pulitzer story. So I read a story about a mother and baby who, from Gaza, who were reunited 11 months after separation, and I focused on this particular story because it was very interesting, because like most war headlines and more snow news about Gaza is about like the big numbers behind it, um and the big attacks and everything. But I think it's really important also to look at the smaller stories and reportings, and how war can also reshape these relationships. And then even with like, even if the mother could recover safely, there's also like the emotional damage that war causes of her relationship with the baby. So I wanted to kind of explore the emotional side of war, and the separation and all the everything that is happening as a result of war, to kind of differ from the bigger news headlines. And this particular story was really interesting, and I think it doesn't get talked a lot enough, and it was kind of unique. So that was definitely the inspiration of the story, and what I chose to explore through the poem.
Thank you for your sharing. I definitely agree with you that we should uncover the human stories behind just the numbers, and it's really inspiring how you chose to uncover the human side and the emotional side of war as well. And my next question for Build Hope is, what are you guys most proud of about your organization? Like, what are maybe some impacts that you've created?
To be honest with you, the first thing that clicked to our mind when you asked this question is how we give another vision about Gaza and about the how of people live here. We maybe give another virgin and vision about how people live. Like it's not about where pump and kill and all these like things, but no, there are millions of youth here in Gaza who are really inspiration, who have talents, power, and ideas, but they just want the area, the safe area, and the opportunity to be seen and to be heard. And we were like a real inspiration for a lot of youth that we know. Like after the prize and after how we become a little bit famous, me and Farah, we got like a lot of messages in our phone like you were such an inspiration, you inspired us, you gave us the hope that we were lost, you made us think twice again about our ideas, you made us now want to develop our ideas. So yeah, that's the best thing that I ever accomplished in my whole life. And even Farah, like we give them the hope once again.
That's really awesome to hear, and how, the positive impact that you created in your community and how you're like an inspiration for others. My next question for Dev is, what is like your favorite part of your poem and why?
Yeah, of course. So my favorite section of the poem is probably gonna be the ending. I wrote about like using the metaphor of the string of the balloon to represent the hope the family has right now, and they will continue to have when they were reunited. I wrote sometimes hope is not the sky, sometimes hope is the string. And then it kind of changes the usual image and perception of hope for our this immediate thing, like the immediate freedom that she got when she was still able to escape. And it differs it from hope being something to hold on to, because even when they like escaped and physical and destruction in Gaza, there's still the hope that needs to be on held on to, with the metaphor of the string, which is representing kind of the relationship and the fragile relationship that is there with the mother and the child. um and so yeah, it just that I really liked exploring that and connecting their relationship through the story. And yeah, it just kind of goes again with the central idea of the story, that the ordinary moments in the ordinary like relationships um is like also as important as the sudden miracle. And we should always hold on to hope for each other. And definitely when they go through such a destructive and traumatic event as that, it's definitely really important for them to hold on to hope through the metaphor of the string of the balloon.
Yeah, I find it really interesting, the way you portrayed hope as a string of the balloon. That's definitely a really interesting part of the poem. And my next question is, for Build Hope, is how do you hope to continue developing this project, even further?
Okay, so definitely our next steps are to launch workshops, train like 100 young people, and reduce blocks. Um, our main idea and our main goal in these workshops is not just reducing the blocks and give them to the people that will be the participant of the workshops, but no, we want to spread the culture of rebuilding. We want them to know how to rebuild their own future and their own home. We don't want just to give them the blocks. No, we want to give them the how of making the blocks. And after that, we intend to make a lot of workshops and just keep working and keep spreading the awareness of how to reconstruction.
Thank you. That's really great to hear about your vision, for your project and how you're going to continue growing it even further. And my next question for Dev is, what is like the message you hope to convey most through your poem?
Yeah, so what I want to convey is, so like that safety, and even if there's like safe uh escapes for people who are escaping this war, um there's I wanted them to realize the kind of emotional side of the war, and how recovery for this war is kind of often really slow, fragile, and built through small moments of trust, like I represent through the balloon string. And it's how it has this long trauma for this family, is particularly the one that I detailed in the story. And then they can still feel physically safe, but they still have the emotional behind them. And like it's particularly children who have to go through this war, like the child that the mom have can like not understand what is happening and be kind of like that pink balloon metaphor, while everything behind them is canceling with pain and trauma, but they kind of represent the hope with their innocence, even when the next steps might not be uncertain or maintained. So yeah, basically just capturing this really emotional side, emotional story behind the numbers and headlines, and the ideas basically at the end of the story, the future might not be promised to be kind, but it's still important to have that string being held onto and have that connection with something worth holding with, which is just their relationship, and having not be disconnected with any war and conflict.
Thank you. I definitely think that is a very, very important message that should be, conveyed during such a troubling time like today. And so your poem is really meaningful. And my last question for Build Hope is, if you guys could share one message with young people living through conflict anywhere in the world, what would it be?
Maybe always be satisfied with what you have, because one day when you will lose it, you will definitely know and like believe the value of it. Always be satisfied with what you have, even though if you feel it's not the thing that you want, but step by step and day by day it will be the thing that you want. But always be satisfied, and always have the feeling that you are satisfying with what you.
Thank you for sharing. That was really powerful coming from someone, who's currently experiencing the situation that you are. So thank you so much for that. And my last question for Dev is, this is a bit of like a general question, is what is like your goal as a writer, since you join a lot of different writing competitions and you're really an accomplished writer?
Yeah, of course. So my goal in the for writing is definitely to look at larger conflicts and a lot of different conflicts that we have in society and that are going right now, such as the war in Gaza, of course, for my Pulitzer. And I kind of wanted my writing to create empathy, preserve like the human complexity and emotion, and kind of make have this realization for readers and have an impact for them to really think deeply about these human issues and human societies. Of course, I did this for my Pulitzer Prize, but I also did this for my young arts writing, where I wrote about the cost of labor and kind of the scenes we don't have to see behind them, particularly in farmers market, and I use like the metaphor of a tomato kind of to represent that. So yeah, I just really like looking at these stories and kind of creating more clarity and using metaphors and really advanced poetry devices and other writing styles in order to creatively have these people represent these issues, because I think they're really important to look at. And I think writing and poetry is a really accessible and creative way to kind of raise awareness from them, and it kind of has the emotional connection to the reader that I want to connect, that can make a greater impact in society.
It's really great to hear that you want to use your writing for a good cause. And I do believe that we definitely need more writers like that. And since that is like the end for like my part, for my questions I prepared, if you guys have any questions for each other, you guys can ask it now.
Specific question, but we just want to show you that Dev, how we appreciate your efforts, how we appreciate the way how you write this poem and how you show the world
Yeah,
what is happening in Gaza. So we really appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
yeah, thank you so much. And I think what you're doing is also really great. And you're making a really big impact in your community, especially when there's all these war conflicts happening. I think it's really special that you're taking time to help your community and get past this.
Well, thank you guys so much
Thank
for
you.
making time today. I think that everything that you guys are doing are really amazing, whether it's through like social impact or whether it's through, um, your like writing and trying to advocate for a cause through your writing. And that would be the end of today's interview.